Hello there, everybody. Welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. Hey, my name is Dave Riedel. I write for the Chicago Reader. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Evan Crean. My pronouns are he, him. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s movie guide to better living.
And my name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
Rock and roll.
On.
So, welcome to the final spoiler piece of 2023. Over on the Patreon, on our final poll of 2023, the patrons chose a movie. That movie is The Bishop's Wife, starring Cary Grant, David Niven, and Loretta Young. We talk about it at length. Thank you so much, patrons, for choosing that and for being a part of it every year. If you're not a patron, please consider becoming one. And if you are a patron, you're the best. While I'm at it, would also like to thank our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. Heather, thank you very much for your sponsor piece patronage week in and week out.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks, Heather.
And this week on the show, the final episode of the year, we are talking about each of us, our top 10 films of 2023 and whatever else categories, score, actors, editing, master thespian. Who wants to start off with their top 10 list? I don't want to start off with mine because mine, of course, is completely contrarian. My best actor this year, for Christ's sake, is Bobcat Goldthwait. So who knows why I chose that?
What?
No, that's not true.
That's
I
like,
was
who's
like,
did
what?
anything this year? That can't be right.
I don't know. Yeah, has he even been in anything this year? He may have directed a movie, but other than that, I don't know. So which of you would like to go first? Don't everybody talk at
Evan,
once.
you go first.
Evan goes first.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk about my top 10 first. And I guess we'll just go as usual, reverse order, 10 to 1.
Are there rules? Do we have to wait until the end to tell you you're wrong? Or can we break in
No.
whenever?
Wow.
No, you can say whenever you want.
Okay. Then proceed.
I will proceed with caution. We're operating on a yellow light here. I would say with my top 10 slot, I like to carry on the tradition of former Spoiler Piece co-host Chris Jensen, and to try and pick something that I feel like might not appear in other people's top 10s necessarily, or something I feel like would deserve recommendation. Would deserve recognition that might be like a smaller thing or a smaller movie or something, might have gone under the radar. So my number 10 this year is Fry Bread Face and Me, which we talked about.
Oh,
in the recent
nice.
episode. Yeah, we talked about it recently, so I don't have a ton to say about it, but other than I found it to be a really moving film, very charming, and yeah, I thought it was really good. And so I wanted to make sure that it was represented in my ballot in my top 10, rounding out the top 10 spot.
I'm not breaking in. I don't have any problem with that yet. So.
I was going to, oh, thank you. I was going to say, I think it possibly appeared on at least one of your top 10, or definitely saw it on one of your BAFTA ballots.
It's on mine. At the correct
Nice.
spot, number 5, anyway.
Guns blazing.
I know.
Somebody is hot tonight.
Yep.
Hot in the city. Yeah.
Hot child in the city. Anyway.
I'm definitely going to be interested to see what overlap, if any, is going to be with your guys' top 10s. So number 9 on my list was Missing, which was another. I think we've talked about most of these movies on the show, so I'm probably not going to have a ton to say about each one in particular, but I will kind of circle back on Missing and say I really enjoyed Searching, and so going into a sequel to Searching, I thought, how could they make it that much more interesting? But they really did. I still found a similarity in premise to like the online, search and rescue being interesting and compelling, but I think that's due to good performances and good editing, and trying to put like a little bit of a different spin on it. So I was really psyched to see Missing, and I really enjoyed it. So, and it ended up in my top 10.
Mm-hmm. What's your number 8?
Number 8. This is a movie that I found myself coming back to and thinking about because I actually really enjoyed it. Was Influencer, a movie that we talked about a very long time ago, a Shudder film, horror film. And I just remember really digging it and feeling like not a lot of conversation happened about it outside of when we covered it on the show. And so I was like, yeah, I feel like this was in top 10 material for me. It was a really enjoyable horror film. I liked the themes of it. I really enjoyed the performances in it. I liked what it had to its commentary about social media, influencer culture, and yeah.
Man, I forgot
So-
about that movie completely. I had to look it up just now. I was like, oh, right. The island, the stranding, the boat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I was like, I think I remember you two liking it.
I
But
did.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
liked
was one that I
it.
kept thinking about. I enjoyed it.
Moving on.
Okay. So coming in at number 7 for me was a movie that we also covered recently on the show, American Fiction. So I know, Dave, you weren't as big of a fan of this one, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very fun. I enjoyed the lead performances in it. Sterling K. Brown definitely showed up on my Best Supporting Actor.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my ballot for Bafka, and Jeffrey Wright in the third slot for Best Actor. Not my top performance. That honor went to Coleman Domingo for Rustin.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was another movie that I found very funny and very enjoyable. And yeah, Doug, I don't need to belabor it because we just literally talked about it like 2 weeks ago. So I'll move on to my number 6, which is a movie I don't think we've talked about on the show at all. The Air, the
Oh, yeah.
the Nike movie, for lack of a better term, about the Air Jordan and the creation of the
Right.
shoe and the negotiation of the deal with Michael Jordan's mother. And I was surprised because I was like, oh, all right. I'd heard it, from some people was good. And then I sat down and watched it and I couldn't believe how much fun I had with the movie between the soundtrack, the performances. Ben Affleck, I don't think is a very consistent actor, but I feel like generally he's a pretty good director. And I found this movie a lot of fun. I found it compelling for the performances. I thought the soundtrack, the editing, the story, Viola Davis, I thought was fantastic. She was also on my Best Supporting Actress for Bafka. And yeah, it kind of caught me by surprise how much fun I had watching Air and watching the story. And this was the year apparently of all the business movies that were between like Air, Tetris, Blackberry, Dumb Money, I forget whatever else. There was a Beanie Baby movie, I think.
Yep.
I don't know why that
Documentary.
was I don't know why it was the theme this year, but
Yeah, well, why were there 2 fire documentaries, I mean,
did either of you end up seeing Air?
I did not.
I did not
No.
also.
I always meant to. And I feel the same way I think about Ben Affleck as an actor and director as you do. Is like inconsistent actor, like has the ability to be really good, but he needs someone directing him,
Mhm.
but is usually a pretty consistent director, even though I'm not a big fan of like Boston themed stories, which is funny because I live here. But I Gone Baby Gone, I think is a very good movie. The Town's a good movie. The Iran movie that I can't remember the name of, Argo,
Argo.
Yeah.
which it has no right to be as good as. And now is the 4th movie? Or is there one that I'm missing? I don't even know.
He did another one that I didn't see.
Oh,
I
the
think it was like a
gangster movie.
gangster movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
I didn't
Live
hear
by
good things about
Night?
that
that
one.
movie does suck, actually.
That movie is a piece of shit. And
Yeah.
I don't say that often.
I just remember because that's the movie he made right after Argo, and I remember it came out like the second week of January. I'm like, this is weird. Anyway, so so I had meant to see it, and I just never got around to it. So there's
Oh,
the
I'll be curious to hear what you both think when you do get a chance to check it out. I like Matt Damon a lot in this. I think he's really charming. And I thought there were some really great supporting performances from Jason Bateman, who I don't always love. And I found Chris Messina just absolutely hilarious as Michael Jordan's, cutthroat agent. He has I think after I watched this movie, I tweeted that like this movie had my nomination for like funniest expletive filled rant from this year, because Chris
Oh, I saw
Messina
that.
is just screaming at Matt Damon over the phone multiple times during the movie because Matt Damon's trying to go around him to get to Michael Jordan's parents to start this conversation, and it's very funny. So that's
Cool.
Air. All right. So moving on to number 5. My number 5 was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. I mean, another movie that I really, really loved this year. I know it didn't quite land as well with both of you as the first film, but I still found it really compelling.
I
and
loved
really
it.
enjoyable.
Wait, I
Yeah, I
loved
remember-
Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, I remember you guys liking it, but I remember there were some issues I feel like you guys had with it, where it was like, in these ways it wasn't quite as good as the first one, or it didn't quite land as well as the first one. But I don't know, I really, really enjoyed it, and if it had flaws, it was easy for me to overlook them because I ended up watching it again at a later date, like a few months later, and I was like, I still love this movie.
Yeah, no, I don't think I had many issues with flaws. I loved it. I agree with you. I think it's spectacular.
And I'm really anxious to see how they decide to wrap things up, and whenever we get the next chapter, which is probably not till 2025.
Well, yeah, I guess because of the strike, right? But it was supposed to be 2024, so we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bummed we have to wait. But yeah, the great ensemble. I mean, beautiful animation as we've seen in the
Mhm.
first one,
Mm.
and new and interesting and fun styles of animation. I liked their commentary on like superhero tropes with
Mhm.
the whole piece about like canon storylines and certain beats being required to make a Spider-Man. All the different voice actors and styles of Spider-Man that they threw in there. Oscar Isaac playing a really good villain. I thought it was just another really fun movie, and it ended up winning our best animated for BAFTA as well. And Phil Lord actually tweeted a thank you at us for the win, which I thought was
that's
pretty
nice.
cool.
Yeah, it was my number 2 animated film of the year. So yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's great.
What ended up being your number 1?
Boy and the Heron.
Oh, I need
You
to
can't
see
compete
that.
with Miyazaki.
I know. Miyazaki is just the master.
Yeah.
And I just need to see that movie.
Yeah, but it was my number 1 animated film for a really, like the whole
Mhm.
year up until I saw Boy and the Heron. Yeah.
Yeah, which came out pretty late in the year, right? It didn't come out until like November, December.
It was like December 8th, I think it came out.
Yeah, still need to see it because I love Miyazaki. So, well, I look forward to seeing that one.
Get your tissues handy.
Oh, I know. It's a Miyazaki. I better have him ready.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to my number 4 choice. This is one I saw really early in the year, and I kind of forgot how much I enjoyed it. Rye Lane.
Oh, Rylene is delightful.
Yeah, it's so good. And I feel
Yeah.
like I'd seen it so early in the year that like I was like looking back through movies, thinking about my bad. I'm like, you know what? This movie is really fucking good.
It is
Like
really
I
good.
really enjoyed it, like on so many levels, like the performances, the chemistry of the leads, the cinematography, the costumes, the humor of it. Like there's
Mhm.
I find it's so infrequent now that I watch a comedy and actually laugh. And I feel like this movie actually made me laugh.
Yeah.
I can so relate to that. But Rylene is really funny.
It is very funny and just an absolute delight. And so I was like, yes, Rye Lane has to go high up on my ballot because I enjoyed the shit out of this movie, and it needs lifting up because I feel like not enough people saw it or talked about it during this year. All right. Now we're getting to the top couple of movies here.
Ooh.
Some of these may surprise you.
Some of these may surprise you.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already been surprised, so I'm even more intrigued for more surprises.
Well, I bet you wouldn't think that Evil Dead Rise would be my number 3 choice on my.
Actually, I thought it was going to be in your top 10. I was pretty certain it would be, so
Yeah.
that's not a surprise. But number 3, that is.
Yeah. And
Pardon me while I just
was
shake
one
my head
that I-
silently.
I know you were not a fan of Evil Dead Rise. The Evil Dead lore in a fun direction with its apartment building setting. I thought it was gross and icky and like creepy in all the ways that an Evil Dead movie should be.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was all about Evil Dead Rise. Another movie that I ended up watching again at a later, a few months later, and enjoyed just as much. So I knew it needed to be in the top 10, and because I enjoyed it so much on second viewing, definitely in the number 3 slot.
Evan, I just have to tell you that I don't know, because I know you read all our ballots, but I don't know how much you remember. But Alyssa Sutherland was in my Best Supporting Actress. She was one of my top 3 picks for Best Supporting Actress on my ballot from Evil Dead.
Yeah,
Rise,
that's
so,
right.
Yep, she was fantastic. So
forgotten.
I think Evil Dead Rise is great.
Yeah, actually, now that you're saying that, I remember seeing that going, all right, yeah, I like this choice.
So Evil Dead Rise love.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun choice. Okay, so cool. And number 2, taking a little getting back a little more serious now.
Oh.
Our Father the Devil.
Yeah. Such a great
think-
film.
I think that appeared on your ballot too, Megan. I remember seeing it somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was it was one of my picks for Best International Film, and Babe Tita Sajo was my number 2 pick for Best Actress from Our Father the Devil. So yeah, no, I love that film.
Same here. Number 2 pick for Best Actress. How funny is that?
Yeah. That her performance is just stunning. Just there's so much nuance and complexity to it.
Oh, absolutely. It's it's a really great lead performance and a really great movie too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like tense.
Yeah.
It's like looks really good. It's got just excellent performances, and it really just, it's filled with so many like thorny moral dilemmas and quandaries, and it just gets you thinking. It's one of those movies, and that's why it ended up coming in at my number 2, because I was like, damn, that movie really messed me up in a good way. Yeah. All right, so rounding out the number 1 movie, I can't believe how much I enjoyed it. I can't believe it's my number 1. Tetris. I really enjoyed Tetris that much. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun watching Tetris, and I just got so into the negotiation aspect of it. It just was reminding me so much of why I love Bridge of Spies.
Every time you mention that, I'm like, I gotta see that.
Me too. I know. I have to see it too.
Wait, have you guys not seen Bridge of Spies?
Never seen it.
No.
And that's always been you've always talked about that movie very highly. So
yes, yeah, it very much the negotiation aspect of it. I mean, we're talking about like intellectual property versus like people's like lives and freedom in Bridge of Spies, but like this movie I just found really entertaining, both as a like examination of how this like really this like incredibly popular video game that is just like dominated the zeitgeist of the era, and is just continued to have popularity throughout the years, like its origin story, and also as a spy negotiation movie, and it's just a lot of fun. And also Taron Egerton, I thought, gave a really fun performance in it. And I ended up putting my best supporting was my number 2 was Nikita Efremov, who was I forget the guy's real name, but his Russian, the inventor of Tetris. I thought he gave really great performance in the film,
right.
So he ended up on my best supporting number 2 slot behind Sterling K. Brown.
Okay,
so yeah, that's my top 10.
All right, some surprising picks. I like it.
All right, Megan, wow us.
Well, I will tell you, I don't think I have any overlap with your ballot, Evan.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Your top
like I
10.
said, I was gonna be surprised if there was overlap.
Yeah.
Not in a good or bad way. Just like I know we had like different movies that really hit us during the year.
Yeah, no, totally. So I'm starting off with a controversial one. My number 10 film is Skinamarink.
Oh, I thought about putting that on my top 10, but it didn't quite make it.
Yes. Yeah. So I absolutely love this stylized horror film. It's so disturbing. It is when I'm compiling what my favorite films of the year are, which I do throughout the entire year. Like I start in January and I just keep updating it throughout the year. I always think about two things. What films have I not been able to stop thinking about, and what films have really gutted me emotionally? And this is a film I could not stop thinking about. It is so different, and so I think it's innovative. I love its aesthetic. It's really evocative of nightmares. The sound design and cinematography are so disorienting. I've read a lot of reviews and a lot of essays talking about how it's very evocative of children's response to their parents divorcing and kind of the turmoil of that. And I agree, as well as I think it can be applicable to any kind of trauma that children endure and how disorienting that is and how terrifying, and you don't know what's happening and things are disappearing and voices are coming out of weird places. Like I just love this, and I cannot wait to see what else Kyle Edward Ball does, because I just think this is such a weird, unique, terrifying film. Loved it. Completely an unforgettable experience. So my number 9 film is another horror film that I loved, Birth Rebirth. Judy Reyes and Marin Ireland, Dave, your favorite, are so fantastic in this. This is Laura Moss's horror film. It's a women-centric spin on Frankenstein, where a mother's daughter dies and this scientist woman brings her back to life, and she keeps doing experiments like on her own body, and she keeps getting herself pregnant in order to fuel her experiments. And this is just such a really dread-inducing, moving, like really wrenching film about child loss and grief, but also bodily autonomy and reproductive rights and motherhood and what sacrifice means. And the performances are spectacular. The visuals are great, really moving emotions. I really, really liked this. And what was also really cool, and because there's been so many Frankenstein movies this year, like there's Poor Things, there's The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, and this was my favorite of the Frankenstein retellings. And what I think was also really cool was that this won the Narrative Audience Award at IFF Boston, which is where I first saw it. Yeah, and I absolutely think it's just a fantastic film. Really great. And my 8th film is Ava DuVernay's Origin, which is such an interesting film. So this is a biopic, which I don't normally like biopics, but this is an unconventional film and an unconventional biopic. It's also an adaptation of Isabel Wilkerson's best-selling book Caste, where she looks at the Dalits in India and the caste system there, as well as the oppression of Jews during the Holocaust, and looks at how they were put into ghettos. And she compares that to the racism and police brutality that Black people face in the US, and how racism is an insufficient explanation to what's happening with Black people, but that it's really about caste and othering. And it's a dense book, and there's a lot of education and a lot of information. And this film has that too. But what I think is so fascinating about this film is that Anjanou Ellis is the lead, and she gives this unbelievable performance. It's so good. She's so riveting, and she's just fantastic. She's such a great actor. And what I think is really great is that the movie vacillates between her research as this character, as this real person, but also her own grief and personal tragedy at the death of her husband. And it moves back and forth. So it's like really personal, but really expansive about society. And ultimately it boils down to the importance of kindness and being gentle and compassionate and kind with yourself, but kind with others. It's such a beautiful, unique film. And
I'm glad you said more about it, because I feel like I was reading like the little blurb on that came with the screener, and I was like, I don't really have an easy time telling what this movie's about.
Yeah.
To sit down and watch it. So I felt like you did a good job of getting me interested in seeing it, because I read the summary and was like, I really don't know about this. All right, I'll put this toward the back of the pile for now.
Yeah. It's kind of sad to me that it hasn't really gotten a lot of buzz the way I think it should. Like marketing wise, like yes, it's in the Neon like screener package, which is great. But I think this is just such an unusual film. And I've seen reviews where people are like, oh, it's too dry, there's too much information, and it would have been better as a documentary. But and I get that, and I get that response, and it might not speak to everyone, and I think that's okay too. But to me, the making it a film, fictionalizing a true story in this way, it really gets at the heart of what the crux of it is that it is about compassion and cultivating that in the personal and political and kind of all of it. I could just go on and on. I love Ava DuVernay as a filmmaker, and I think this might be her best film. It's so brilliant, and it's a really difficult. I think it's a difficult book to adapt in this way, and I right?
I read Cast.
Like,
I can't imagine.
Yeah. Right. Like I just watching what I watch on screen, I'm just like, this is amazing, kind of how it was done. Anyway, loved it.
I have one other thing. I have one thing to say about this. I think the reason it hasn't gotten the push or the buzz, the publicity or whatever, is people have a hair up their. I don't know why.
I know.
Well, actually, I know exactly why. But
I know why. Yeah.
But whatever. That's neither here nor there at this point. So
yeah. I mean, I will say at like film fests and at screenings, it's gotten, some buzz, but you're absolutely
also,
right.
It is, in fairness though, it is difficult to market because
it is a difficult film to market. Absolutely.
The only other movie I can think of that's even remotely like this is Adaptation, which is not like this, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. No, but that's a great comparison. Yeah. But
and try.
But that's, I think,
I was going to say, try describing Adaptation to people,
Right. Yeah. But I definitely think it's worth seeing regardless. Like, even if it doesn't hit you the way maybe it hit me emotionally, I think it's worth seeing. Yeah. My number 7 film, it's funny, I probably would put this higher because the more I think about it, the more I love this, but I'm still so delighted it's on my top 10. All of Us Strangers.
Ooh.
Yes, yeah. Which I know we talked about last week, so I won't get into it too much. But I love this film so much. This is another film that I have not been able to stop thinking about. And I just saw it about a month ago, but it has just haunted me. And it is just such a tender, beautiful, sad, melancholy. It's just such a beautiful film. So poignant. And Andrew Scott, I think, gives one of the best performances. He was on my ballot for one of the top 3 best actors of the year. I think the writing is perceptive, stunning cinematography. I love how it really captures that push-pull fear of loneliness and connection, and how you want connection, but you're afraid of it. And it's so good. And I love that his romance with Harry resuscitates him and also catalyzes him to like deal with grief. Anyway, I love this film. I could talk about it so much, but it's just so moving and it's so beautiful. And I just love it. It's so good.
Still feeling devastated from last week from watching it.
I know. I've thought about it a few times, like certain scenes, and I start getting emotional. I'm like, I got to do something else. It's so good. It's just so beautiful. My number 6 movie is Kitty Green's The Royal Hotel.
Oh, nice.
Thank you. I adored this. I think this is so riveting. It's so taut. I think it's masterfully crafted. Julia Garner and Jessica Henwick give such great performances, as well as the supporting cast. I think everyone in this cast is just so good. And it is just brimming with tension. It's anxiety-inducing. I love that it's a scathing indictment of misogyny and toxic masculinity. Yep. it's so perceptive. And I absolutely loved Kitty Green's The Assistant. And I think The Royal Hotel is just fantastic as well. So good. Loved it.
I ended up watching it on both of your recommendation. I listened to the episode while you guys were out, and I ended up seeing it. And I did enjoy it for sure. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as The Assistant, but I still agree there's a lot of really good stuff there and really good performances at the core.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's not as good as The Assistant. The Assistant is brilliant.
Yeah.
And this is, I don't want to be like, this is not brilliant. Like, no, I think this is excellent too. But I think The Assistant is a better film. But yeah, I think so much of what she's doing in The Assistant, she does here too. And yeah, I agree. Really great. All right. My number 5 is Killers of the Flower Moon. This is a film that, again, when I saw it, I loved it because I love Lily Gladstone. I think their performance is so spectacular. It's a towering, haunting tour de force of a performance. She is so subtle. She is so complex in this, conveying so much through her facial expressions, her body language. She conveys so much worry and pain and anguish so expertly while still having this very self-assured aura about her, that I really like. That performance just haunted me and rocked my entire cinematic viewing world. And it was my number 1 performance by any performer of the year. It's exceptional. In addition to her performance, which I haven't been able to stop thinking about, I also hadn't been able to stop thinking about the entire film and how gutting it is, and it's really interesting looking at Martin Scorsese's body of work and how he always returns to these themes of true crime and faith and guilt. And they're all here in this too. But I think that it is on another level, and no knock to his previous films, because I love his previous films too. But I think that this is really masterfully done. I think Robbie Robertson's score, his score was my favorite film score of the year. I think the propulsive thrumming feels like a bomb is about to explode. I think it's so good. I think the cinematography is absolutely gorgeous and captures moments of joy as well as anguish. But the thing that kept making me return to this, in addition to Lily Gladstone's phenomenal performance, is just how challenging this film is and how I kept thinking about it. And not everything worked for me in this film, but that's almost part of the beauty of it, that it's a challenging film, and I kept coming back to it and mulling it over again and again and again. And I really think it's utterly fantastic. And what I also think is really interesting about it is that it depicts systemic racism via the head rights that were imposed on Indigenous people, but also how the U.S. committed genocide and stolen land from Native Americans and all of that. But it also really insightfully depicts an abusive relationship, like how Leonardo DiCaprio throughout the film keeps saying like, oh, but I love my wife, but I love you, but I love you, but I love you. But really he is manipulative and murderous and sinister and is incredibly abusive and gaslighting. And that's an element that is just really horrifying too, on top of all the other horrifying elements of this film. So anyway, loved it.
I need to see it.
You need to see it for Lily Gladstone, if nothing else. Lily Gladstone is phenomenal. Unreal, just phenomenal. But I'd be also curious to hear your thoughts when you do see it. Oh, so good. My 4th film is Sofia Coppola's Priscilla. And I just realized this is another biopic. I have actually quite a few biopics in true crime on my list, which I don't normally have. And I often have problems with biopics, but what I love about this one is that this is an exquisite film, but it's also very moody. It's evocative. It's got fantastic performances by Kaylee Spaney, who gives a really understated, subdued performance as Priscilla Presley. There's a lot of kind of interior emotions and thoughts kind of happening that you witness, that she keeps to herself. And Jacob Elordi is also really great, and he's really charismatic, but he's also, I've never seen anyone depict Elvis as kind of a shy, sensitive person. And like usually it's kind of like this bravura over the top thing, like the way Austin Butler did it in Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. And so this is a really different performance that I really liked, but no less insidious, and also a really fascinating depiction of emotional abuse and control and grooming. And this film does not shy away from that. But it also, what I think is also really interesting is that Sofia Coppola's visuals are always so stunning. And the production design, the lavish costumes, cinematography, it's all very lush and gorgeous and really reifies this traditional femininity, but also it shows how young Priscilla was. And it really reinforces that she was just a girl. She was a teenager when they got involved. And I love that it's kind of this fairy tale fantasy that's like crumbling as reality hits. And I think that this film is kind of taking everything Sofia Coppola has done in her body of work, capturing the elusive feelings of teen girls, well, rich, white, straight teen girls, but teen girls. And I think everything she's done in those films and is doing it here. Like, this is a great companion piece to Marie Antoinette, which is another Coppola film that I absolutely adore. But yeah, loved this film. Oh, such a great depiction of showing a woman trapped and then breaking free. Anyway, I just love it. Great film. Okay, my third favorite film is All Dirt Roads Taste of Salt, which was my favorite film out of Sundance. It's Raven Jackson's film, it's poetic, it's lyrical, it's languorous. There is no traditional narrative structure here. It's moments in time of a Black woman, her life as she lives in Mississippi, and it moves through time back and forth, and it shows her young and it shows her in her teen years and in her 20s, 30s, and into her like 50s and 60s. And I love this film. There's these like stolen moments from her life, and it just is so beautiful. It's so moving. It feels like such an intimate window into someone's life. And I just feel like you need to kind of surrender to it and let it like wash over you. And it's a very unconventional film, but I think it's a beautiful, stunning film. And it was one I just could not stop thinking about. Its images were just like seared onto my brain. Loved it. And then my number 2 film is Barbie. I absolutely adored Greta Gerwig's Barbie. Loved it, loved it, loved it. I found it such a whimsical reverie. It was feminist, but it also was so poignant and sad, and in the self-discovery and how Barbie has this existential crisis. I love Margot Robbie. I will watch her in anything. I think she's an excellent actor. I loved Ryan Gosling. He was my absolute favorite Best Supporting Actor of the year. I think he's hilarious. I think he is funny. I think he gives a lot of nuance, but also it's a very over the top role that I just really was delighted in. I loved America Ferrera. She was one of my Best Supporting Actresses of the year because I think she's great. I love that this looks at societal expectations of women and that kind of plague of perfectionism. I love that it shows how patriarchy harms not just women, but everyone. I think the production design is the most gorgeous and stunning I've seen this year. And there are so many gorgeous production designs, right? Like so impressive. The costuming, like all of it, the color palette, loved it.
Choreography.
Yes, the choreography, the needle drops. Oh, love it. So good. Mm-hmm. But I love that it takes all that and it opens with nostalgia. And I love that it's like riffing on like 2001, and it's also using there's so many filmic references, like Singing in the Rain and the Dream Ballet sequence and Umbrellas of Cherbourg and so many other like classic Hollywood films. And I love that it takes all that, but I think it transcends nostalgia to really delve into gender and society and even beyond that, just kind of existentialism and what it means to be alive and what it means to have a life filled with purpose. And what does it mean when your life is going in another direction than what you think it's supposed to go in? And I love it for that. And I love that people can access it on different levels. Like I've seen such a variety of reactions to it about like how certain scenes resonate with people and how they walk away with different reactions. And I think that's great. And plus I just thought it was a blast. I had so much fun. It made me cry. It made me laugh. It was a roller coaster of emotions. I loved it. I'm glad you liked it too, Evan.
Yeah, I did. Definitely.
Yay. And then my number one film of the year, it has been my favorite almost all year long, Past Lives. I have adored Celine Song's tender, yearning film. I just rewatched it today to refresh myself. And, when I first saw it months and months and months ago, I was in the theater. I saw it at a film fest, and I was sobbing uncontrollably. I was inconsolable, sobbing. And then I was like, well, I've seen it before. I'll be fine. I was sobbing uncontrollably about an hour before we recorded, and I'm like, I gotta pull myself together. Like, it is so good. I adore it. I think the performances are subtle yet complex. Greta Lee is amazing. John Magaro.
She is. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Teo Yu. I think it's brilliantly written. I love the dreamy cinematography, the nostalgic editing. And my favorite shot is when they're staring at each other and then it cuts to as adults and then it cuts to when they're kids. And it's so beautiful. And I love the delicate score, which is kind of like, it feels like water falling or like memories spilling forth. It's such a great accompaniment to what's going on screen. I love that it's exploring the possibilities in life and the roads not taken and had divergent choices. I love that it's about reconnecting and kind of this precious lure of connection. Like, when you find this connection with someone and it spans time and geography, and I just adore it. And I love the ending. I think the ending is really, really beautiful. I'm going to spoil it. So I love that these two people
That's okay, I've seen it.
I haven't
childhood
seen it.
these two people who are childhood sweethearts back in Korea, they reconnect in New York City. She's married. He's single. He wants to see her. They spend a couple days together. And I love that even though they have this intimate moment together, emotionally intimate, not physically intimate, when he leaves, she goes back to her husband and she's sobbing and he holds her because he knows that this was a really impactful moment for her, and he's so accepting and so gentle and understands this connection, and it's just so beautiful. I'm like, that's such a beautiful reaction. It's just so mature and so accepting and loving, and and like so many of the other films on my list, if not all of them, it emotionally destroyed me. And it's beautiful, and I loved it.
Yeah, Greta Lee was on my ballot for Best Actress. She was my top choice.
She's so good. I had so many great actresses that she did not make the cut on mine, but she was like right under. Like she was like a number like 4 or 5.
Well, I guess that, great list, Megan.
Thanks.
I guess that just leaves me, prepared to get your fucking socks blown off. So, not really.
I'm gluing them to the floor.
My number 10 of the year is kind of a cop out. But yeah. Well, I was going through my lists, and one of the things that I do to cultivate a list, Megan, is one of the things that you do, which is like, which movie sticks with me for the longest? Which movie do I keep thinking about? And even though I didn't love this movie, I could not stop thinking about it. It was Fair Play.
Yes.
And I think more than anything, it's not so much his journey, but it's how I can't remember what her character's name is. Emily. Emily goes from being, I guess, sort of a neutral good sort of character, if we're going to use D&D analogies,
Yeah, I love it.
There
to
we go.
Chaotic evil. No, I'm
to
kidding.
neutral evil, borderline chaotic evil.
Right?
And how he goes from chaotic evil to just sort of like, is there a neutral wimp? I don't know.
I like neutral
But,
wimp.
yeah, there's something about the dynamics of what the job and that relationship did to her. I
Mhm.
really thought were fascinating. I debated whether or not to make that my number 10 or Skinamarink my number 10.
Yeah, Skinamarink.
So I went with Fair Play, but I think I probably should have gone with Skinamarink. I don't know.
You know what's funny though, Dave? Fair Play was in my top 10 for almost the entire year. It's probably like rattling around at like my number like 11 or 12 because it's a film I also couldn't stop thinking about.
Yeah.
So I agree with you.
I don't know. In Skinamarink, I know so many people who just hated it. And I heard so many podcasts where people just
our fellow co-host
Yeah.
over there.
I heard so many
Hand was
podcasts where
raised.
people were just shitting all over it. And it's like, I saw a different
Jason from Binge Movies.
Yeah, Dave, you and I saw a completely different
totally.
movie.
I mean, I thought it was like I think it's one of the scariest horror movies I've ever seen,
Oh, for
So-
sure, without question. That and Host, I'm done.
I still haven't seen Host because you two have put the fear of God into me.
Sorry,
about that.
you're gonna
Oh,
see
you
it and you're gonna be
gotta
like,
see it.
this is what they're whining about.
I know. And I was talking to somebody about it, and she was like, "Well, it's only an hour, so at least you only have the
It
shit scared
is.
out of you for an hour." I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really a consolation, but okay. So
Yeah, no, I agree with you on Skinamarink. It's scary. It's terrifying.
my number 9 is a documentary. It's Everybody,
Yeah.
nice.
and I like me the documentaries, and I like me the gender non-conforming document. I don't know how exactly we describe it, but I was just really moved with the 3 people that they followed around. Also, recently found out that someone close-ish to me is intersex, and had no idea. And so it's just one of those things. It's like, oh, it's a good movie. It's a good message, and it's closer than I thought it was to me. So hey, there you have it.
Yeah.
Number 8. This probably will be a surprise. Is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yay!
All right.
And this is
Woo.
another one of those movies that when I saw it, I was kind of like, I don't know, man. But it stuck with me. And the only real problem I have with it, and Evan, you do not have this problem with it, is I still don't like Oscar Isaac's performance. And I don't like the way his
Interesting.
character is written. Because it's just so obvious what he is from the moment he appears on screen. It's really kind of a bummer that there's no mystery to it. And I don't even know, his character's story, how he works, like in the comics, how he works into any of this stuff. I don't know. I don't really give a shit. But as you know how I feel about source material and adaptations. But the animation style, learning more about Gwen and her relationship with her father, and all of the just the twists and turns that it takes that I didn't think it was going to take, except for the Oscar Isaac stuff. And I also just still love the whole different Spider-Men and women across
So good.
across different parallel dimensions, and how they make them all different. And some of them are just so, like the Nicolas Cage thing, when he comes back for a hot second, I was so happy. And then Peter Porker, of course,
Yes.
just so great.
Peter
and
Parked Car. That was my favorite.
And I also just like the version in these 2 movies of Doc Ock. I think that the Doc Ock in these is good. So moving on, number 7 is Everything Went Fine, the French movie about assisted suicide, basically.
Oh.
Well, yes and no. It's about Sophie, what's her name? Sophie Moreau, famous French woman in her mid-40s. And anyway, it's about taking care of their father, who is his everything is failing him at the end of his life. And it's just another one of those shit. Like the children are taking care of the parents now, but it's more than that. Neither of you saw this?
No.
No, it wasn't on my radar at all.
I've heard
How
of
did-
it, but yeah, no, I haven't seen
How
it.
did I see it? Everything went fine. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so there you go. It's on my list. Number 6. This will be a surprise. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Oh,
Dave,
hey, all right.
it was on my top 10 for almost the whole year and then got booted. So I love that you had it. That's amazing.
I never thought a Marvel movie would make me cry, but I'm telling you, the
Ooh,
Rocket
boy.
Raccoon story has depth.
Boy, does it.
And it's just really so well done, especially the flashbacks, him and his 3 little friends. And it's along with, I wish I had seen All of Us Strangers before I'd made my ballot, because that for sure would have been on there. And I think Andrew Scott, I
Yes.
think he would have been my number 1 actor for the
Good
year,
pick.
because that is a just an unbelievable performance. I mean, to be on the edge of tears for an hour and 50 minutes, ask any actor, they're like, what's harder, crying or being angry or being funny? And they're like, crying, but almost crying. That's the hardest thing to do. And he does it for the entire movie. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy, I just was so moved by the Rocket story, all the other stuff, whatever. But probably also, I don't want to, make predictions, but also probably the only time a movie starring Chris Pratt will be on any best of list for me. Number 5, have a little overlap with Evan here, Fry Bread Face and me.
Yay.
It's funny. Like, I don't think it's like some great fucking movie, but it's just like, it's one of those movies. It's just a nice movie, like it's well done. It captures that feeling of not belonging that a lot of people have when they're young very well, without hitting you over the head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I really like all of the performances, particularly the grandma and the aunt. That's a lot of fun. Fun is not the right word, but you know what I mean.
No, it's an enjoyable experience. It's one of those coming of age movies where you like really enjoy the experience of walking through what's happening with the character and experiencing with them. And I thought the grandma was fantastic. She was my 3rd choice for best supporting actress on my ballot.
Nice.
Yeah, she was terrific.
Yeah, such a heartwarming movie. Really lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, not so heartwarming, The Royal Hotel.
Yeah, you too, Dave. I love it.
I fucking loved The Royal Hotel.
So good.
Again, I'm not sure it's the same, but it's it's similar themes, but it's such a different movie from The Assistant.
Yes.
The Assistant is that quiet malevolence.
Yes,
whereas,
yes.
Whereas this is in your face malevolence. And I think that Julia Garner and Jessica Henwick, is that it?
Yes.
Are both just so wonderful. They're
So
both in my
good.
best. I think that Julia Garner is number 2, and I think that for
nice.
best supporting, I think Jessica Henwick was my first. I really liked their dynamic. I liked the way that they played off each other. I liked the way that, even though that one guy whose name I can't remember was the most evil, it was also kind of like, there's a couple other guys hanging around here, lurking around the edges that you should be just as concerned about.
Yeah, like the guy who crashed his car.
The guy who
Oh
crashed
my
his
God,
car.
that
Yes.
guy.
Yeah.
And I just loved that they burned the place to the ground and got away with it.
Yeah, I kept wrestling with that ending because I'm like, is it too on the nose? Is it too predictable? And then I was like, you know what? I don't even give a shit. It felt
Yeah,
so satisfying.
After
fuck
95 minutes of watching them basically
Right.
be psychologically tortured,
Right. It felt like catharsis.
yeah, they deserve, a little kindling in the form of the Royal Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Number 3, Barbie.
Yes! Oh, Dave! I'm so excited.
Well, Barbie's it's a terrific movie, and I just want to say to all those guys out there all freaked out about how it hates men, shut the fuck up. Fucking pussy ass bitches. Jesus. Like, men are the biggest fucking whiny crybaby little bitches. Especially right-wing men. Fuck
I've
me.
been saying, there's a phrase that I've been saying, and I'm just trying to incorporate it more and more into my vernacular, just to see how much it pisses people off. Oh, you know, men, they're so emotional and irrational.
Yes!
Absolutely.
I've just started saying that now, and I'm going to keep saying it and just see how many people get so mad when I say it.
Yeah.
I love that you're stoking the fires that way, Evan. That's great.
The only, as far as Barbie goes, the movie, I think I'm in the minority is I don't love Ryan Gosling's performance.
That is fair. I can see not
think
loving it. I can. Even
There
though
are
I
people
did
who are
love
just
it.
like, oh, I love Ken. He's so great. And it's like, I don't know. It just seems like really predictable.
Oh, yeah. I don't disagree with you.
And I don't know if that's because that's the way it's written or
Mhm.
because that's the way he interpreted it or he and Gerwig did, that was their thing.
Mhm.
But I think that I've never seen. It's hard to imagine another movie, especially recently, with such just it's just consistent and it's consistently funny
Mhm.
and it knows what it is and it does what it does and it's really self-assured without being like.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think it's all of those things. And people, it's like, did we see the same movie? I don't really think this movie hates men even a little.
No, not
I think
at
this movie
all.
I think this movie actually kind of likes men, but
It
whatever.
does. It does. It hates patriarchy, but not men.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, number 2 on my list is, this will be no surprise to you, Megan, is Poor Things.
Nice. Very nice.
So it will be number 42 on Evan's list, but number 2 on mine.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
You never know. It was probably number 11 on mine list because I thought about putting it in my top 10 because I did really like it a lot.
Yeah, I run hot and cold on our friend Yorgos, but I really liked The Favorite. I really, really
yeah.
disliked Killing of a Sacred Deer.
I gotta watch that.
1, child death. 2,
Oh, hello.
just every story beat in that movie is just like you see it coming a mile away. It's really disappointing. And then I'm kind of lukewarm on The Lobster. I'm like, oh, The Lobster's fine. People fucking freak out about The Lobster, but like it's good. Don't get me wrong, but
Poor Things you loved.
But this and The Favorite, yeah. Well, this is it's got some weirdness in it, which all of his movies do, and I like weirdness, but I feel like the weirdness in this is it serves a real purpose other than just kind of, I don't think that he does things just to be weird, but I think it comes across that way sometimes.
I agree with you.
Whereas this, I feel like everything in this that could be classified as weird has a real purpose, and that all of these people are supremely flawed, but they're all living their own. But they're all living honestly for themselves, which I think is you don't see a lot in movies. They all have their own ideas of what things are, and they're following those things through to their detriment or fulfillment, whatever. Yes, Poor Things. And it looks really good too. Don't forget that.
Beautiful to look at. Completely agree with you.
And now this will not surprise Megan, but it may surprise Evan because I don't know if you were on this episode. My number 1 movie of the year, a documentary, again, Bad Press.
Yes, I am not surprised at all.
Yeah. Fascinating. I mean, it plays like a thriller. It's really smart. It's really funny. It's really sympathetic to its characters and it is completely pro its main character, but it doesn't feel squishy or like, oh, but she's so great. There's none of that. You know what I mean?
No squishiness here.
And I also love that the fact that our main character is like a true dyed-in-the-wool reporter. Heavy smoker, just like wakes up in the morning is like, I gotta get the truth, just, I love that.
Yeah, she was fascinating.
Yeah, she was great.
I wanted to know more about her. Like, I wanted to just follow her.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my top 10 list. I don't, if I had, like I said, if I had seen All of Us Strangers more recently, I think that would have bumped one of the movies at the end. I don't know if it would have gone up like really high, but who knows? It blows my mind though that that people think that Oppenheimer is a better directed movie than Barbie. That's all I'm going to say. So,
I mean,
you can't really compare them because they are different movies and they've got very different agendas, et cetera, et cetera. But
both about existential crises, though, if you want to boil it down.
Objectively, I think Barbie's, well, it's certainly more fun. I mean,
oh, yeah.
I don't know if I describe anything, even the Christopher Nolan movies that I like, and there aren't many, but the Christopher Nolan movies that I like is fun. None of his movies are fun. But Barbie manages to be fun in a way that it's kind of telling you a profound, maybe is too large a word, but it's telling you a profound story, whereas Oppenheimer's just like, should I have killed all those people? I mean, fuck you.
I'm not laughing at the killing of people, but just your framing of it is kind of hilarious.
Like, I give a shit about this guy's existential crisis. Fuck off.
I mean, not to go off on a tangent on Oppenheimer, because it is a well-made film, and I liked it.
It certainly is.
But I'm like, but that was kind of my big problem, is that I'm like, yeah, this guy, like, I don't care. But back to Barbie for a moment, because I do love Barbie. I think that's what the brilliance of Barbie is that it is so fun. It is so enjoyable, but it's a really moving and poignant story too, and fun, and like anyway, I could just wax poetic about Barbie, but yeah, I mean, Oppenheimer's fine. It's a well-made film, but yeah, I struggled with basically the same thing. Like, why should I care? Why should I care about this?
Yeah,
I'm in a camp where I found neither film as compelling as other people did. Like, I liked them respectively, but I didn't like. For me, all of what I loved about Barbie was like a lot of the technical parts of it.
Yeah.
Like, I loved the performances. I loved the artifice of it, like the costumes, the choreography, the casting, the sets, the costumes. But I felt like especially in the last act for me, I felt like it was a little bit like hitting me over the head and a little bit like obvious about some of the points it was making, and it could have been more subtle. But I'm in the minority compared to most people. Just love Barbie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair.
I do too. And I think that's a fair criticism that it is too obvious. The one rebuttal I would say that I have seen other people make is that it's arguably meant for kids, and so sometimes more obvious, works for them.
Anyway, those are the three of us. Do we have any closing thoughts on our lists, et cetera, before we wrap up this year-ender over at Spoiler Piece Theater?
I say this every year, so I'm going to sound like a broken record. I'm going to say it again this year, but I had a hard time coming up with a top 10, not because I had a hard time because there were so few movies to enjoy, but I loved so many films this year. There were so many great films, and I could have done easily a top 20, top 30, possibly even a top 40, because there were just a plethora of films that I loved. And as much as I love my top 10 list and I felt really solid and confident in it, there were so many films I was like, oh man, I'm sad I can't put that in. And that film's great. And yeah, so what a great year for film.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, I mean, this year I saw far fewer films than I have in the last several years. I may have had a thing or two happen this year to prevent me from seeing more movies.
Just a thing,
But yeah, in any given year, there's a lot of great films out there to watch. And if you think that there aren't, you need to watch more movies. I say that every year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep, 100%. I do think it's interesting because I'm not someone who thinks like you have to go to the theater to see films, but I do think it's interesting that there were resurgences at the theater, like with Barbenheimer and with Taylor Swift's The Eras Tour concert film and with Beyonce's Renaissance. And so I don't care if people go to the theaters or not, although it is lovely to see a film in theaters. Watch more movies. I think that's the takeaway. Watch more movies. Watch different movies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Watch all the movies.
Absolutely.
But I love that they're also talking about our lists. I love how there's so much divergence for each of our lists. I think that's so cool. And there's overlap too, which is cool.
Yeah.
It speaks to how huge the year of movies has been. Bruh.
Exactly.
Well, okay. On that note, thank you everybody for being with us for another year of Spoiler Piece Theater. I want to thank our wonderful editor, Otto Clamor, for making us sound good, great, etc. every week. Thank you, Otto.
Thanks, Otto.
Thanks, Otto.
You can find Spoiler Piece Theater anywhere you get podcasts. If you want to check us out, our website is spoilerpiece.com. You want to find us on social media, we're Spoiler Piece Theater on Facebook. We're at Spoiler Piece on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Threads. If you would like to get in touch with us, you can email us. We're spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call
at 862-21-PEACE.
Leave us a voicemail. Tell us what your top 10 of the year is. We would love to hear it. It would be a great joy. And I'm being sincere when I say that. Yeah, I know it sounds like I'm like, it would be a great joy, but no, it really would be. If you like the show, please rate and review us by going to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. You can also rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That really helps us out a lot. If you really like the show, please consider joining our Patreon. This week, we did our final Patreon poll of the year. We asked you to give us a holiday movie to watch, and you chose The Bishop's Wife, starring Cary Grant, Loretta Young, and David Niven. So that's over on our Patreon. And my name is David Riedel. I write for the Chicago Reader. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association. And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky,
Threads.
Threads. Dave Sees Movies.
My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, and Threads as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And my name is Megan Kearns. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I am a co-host of the Slashers podcast. I too am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at OpinionS World, or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The OpinionS.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great new year. We'll see you in 2024. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.